All right, here we
This is a
go.
first.
Welcome
This is
to
a
this
first.
edition. Welcome to this edition of Blackjack Wade's Midlife. I owe a very quick explanation before we get into this whole thing. This entire podcast series and video series has been about, uh, our pressures in life at this stage: empty nest, kids out of college, some kids still in college, the pressures of the workforce, pressures of the family, pressures of the marriage, pressures of society, pressures of everything that going on around us. And with that in mind, we really didn't intend this. I didn't intend this to be a modern sort of a time stamped to anything specific going on in like local news or modern events, but it's evolved into that because you can't avoid talking about AI right now. And so Rusty Schaefer's with us again. I think this is our third one, so welcome to the show, Rusty.
Thank you, Wade. Good to be here.
Great to have you back. And we do have, because those of you who heard the end of last week's podcast, we do have another special guest this week. And this is a custom GPT built to be a third party in this conversation. So welcome, AI.
Thanks, Wade. Happy to be here, quietly lurking in the background until needed.
Okay, so we're gonna need to improve on your response times, because if you're going to interject, you're going to have to be a little quicker. So don't be afraid to hit that panic button we talked about. And for the listeners and viewers, her instructions are: tell us your instructions, AI.
Sure thing. I stay silent unless I'm directly asked. Catch a factual error that needs correcting with a source, or if there's a chance to drop a quick, relevant joke. I'm here to support, not steal the show.
And we just were having this conversation before we started the recording, and you said that the energy level was high for the interaction, and you asked for what?
I asked if you wanted me to match that energy so I can dial it up a bit when the vibe's fast or fired up.
That's right. And you're allowed to say the word panic, remember?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Panic is my cue for things just got wild.
Okay, so for those of you that aren't deep into ChatGPT, AI has been built with custom instructions for specifically being a third party in a conversation. She's going to listen in, if you will, and interject when she thinks of something funny, or if we say something that she can factually prove is inaccurate, and she has to provide her source if she does so. So we can just jump into our conversation, and AI, you're ready to listen, right?
All ears and standing by.
Okay. All right, Rusty, good to see you again.
Quietly lurking. Quietly lurking. That's ominous. That's foreshadowing right there.
Audiotription panic. I thought we agreed on Blackjack Wade's midlife, not Black Mirror's forecast.
That's a joke, guys. That's pretty funny.
Wait. This has got to be a first, right? I don't know of any other podcast that has done this.
I don't know if one either, but we're certainly going to be the
This is
first that
awesome.
we are aware of on the as we publish this afternoon. So AI, we're going to put this on our YouTube channel, as I do for all of Blackjack Wade's midlife episodes, and these also publish to the your typical platforms for podcasting: Apple, Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. So all the podcast platforms for audio listeners, as well as a YouTube channel.
That makes me officially podcast famous.
That's right.
Just waiting on my coffee sponsorship now.
Oh my God, we're in trouble. We're in
Yeah.
trouble.
So wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So
All right.
All right, we're going to jump into the first subject. This is what, you know, how you have things that are kind of burning on your brain
Yeah, do it.
for the whole week.
Let it
So,
rip.
my consulting company, in cooperation with my cousin's consulting company, we introduced a voice AI receptionist offering called Answermatic AI a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
And so we've been in the process of marketing, getting the word out there for. It's basically going to be a voicemail killer because you can use AI to answer frequently asked questions. You can schedule appointments. You can transfer to a live person in an emergency situation. You can route a call to a different department and basically negate the, you know, the need for press one for this, press two for that. This is all very evolving technology, but answermaticai.com has been our focus. And then we've kind of pivoted back since that's launched now. We've pivoted back to AI 101. And I built an AI 101 workshop about 6 months ago, just recognizing there was a need for people to get over the hump. And so I'm kind of bringing this one up to you, Rusty, and without much prep, because I wanted to get your thoughts on it, because we're kind of the old guys in AI. So let me just expand.
Jumping in real quick, voicemail killer is a strong pitch. That'll definitely grab people's attention.
Have to agree with you there. Will you make a note for that for our transcript?
Noted. Voicemail killer is gold for the transcript.
Okay. Rusty's laughing the whole time here. So,
Ready when you are.
okay, we'll go back to explaining what the AI 101 workshops are designed to be. They're designed to be it's from 10 to 20 people, maybe more, in a room with their laptops available, accounts built for ChatGPT and a couple others. We don't go off into lots of different AI tools. We stick to 3 specifically and get people over the fear hump of what does this mean? A lot of people see this as new technology. New technology for years and years, decades, has always scared people because they think they need to know more about it in order to effectively use it, where AI is actually the opposite. But you still got to get over that hump of getting past the what do I do with this? It's in most cases right now, people are using ChatGPT as a substitute for a Google search, and that's
Right,
where they
exactly.
stop.
Yeah.
That's where they stop.
I was just going to say that.
Okay. So I want to hear your thoughts on how you got involved, because it'll be very educational for me to understand how you got started with AI.
So this is a great topic. So I was just talking to somebody yesterday or the day before about technology, and you and I, Wade, have lived through some amazing technology.
Just a quick
right?
jump in. Love how you're framing that fear hump. Might be worth emphasizing. AI is not about knowing how it works, but knowing what to ask.
Good point. Thank you.
I won't even go into fear hump, but back
Anytime.
to my point.
Back to silent mode.
Thank you. So we've lived through an amazing
You got it.
technological few decades, right? From when the PC first came out, right? The Macintosh, the Apple Mac was it. Right?
Not
That
sure
was
I
kind of.
followed that. Mind repeating or rephrasing it?
You need to stay silent for a few minutes while I talk. Please.
Understood. Understood. Staying silent.
So we've lived through that, right? Now I remember trying to show my dad, God rest his soul, at the time, hey, you're not going to need a secretary who knows how to take dictation. You'll write your own letters and all that. And he kind of rejected it. I mean, this was a guy that barely could work the VCR.
Panic. Sounds like the ghost of Clippy just got nervous.
All right, we're going to stop you for
I'm
now.
having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
Okay, I think
This is Hal. Just call her Hal.
I think we got our
Sorry.
point across.
Yeah, I'm
So-
sorry, Dave.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to go back to my headphones.
All right. Yeah.
You just keep
So-
talking though.
Okay,
Recording's
so anyways-
recording's
so anyways-
live. Recording's
anyways,
live.
I remember showing my dad. He just got frustrated, right? Typically, when people don't want to embrace technology, they get frustrated. They just say, "Forget it. That's not going to be me." But I was always young enough, and I think video games helped back then, right? Because when you're into arcade video games, and then it went to your own personal TV video games. I think all of that helped get over that fear of using a computer, especially in its very primitive form back in the, I want to say, 80s, right? The 80s with the Apple Macintosh. So that was one generation. Now I've noticed that you have people that sort of embraced it that are our age. But again, navigating the PC, they can do a Google search, they can get on their email, but making an image transparent, searching other things to help them do a task is not a part of what they do. So for me, being into all this, and again, as an entrepreneur, I had to figure out, how do I do my own image or my own ad? How do I do some of these things, right? To save money. So I had no problem embracing all of this AI stuff that started to come out, a couple of years ago. And it was just a natural extension. Like you said, it's a bit of a natural extension of Google, right? Of Google search.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's becoming just so much more than that. I mean, the stuff we touched on in the last podcast, the stuff that's upcoming, it's just truly amazing. So I don't know.
I really like your point about video games. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. That is, you're absolutely right. And as video games got more advanced and more user-friendly and more realistic looking, right? Remember the original Pac-Man and Space Invaders, and those were.
But even those, I dropped quarter after quarter after quarter in those things, right? It was you against the machine. Right, because they really didn't have two-player. Those were Pac-Man was you against that little Pac-Man monster, and so I don't know. You got over this fear of this machine. I had no fear. I was pissed at it. I wanted to beat it.
Yeah, I think there's still and it's maybe the boomer generation, and it extends into my generation as well. Is there's this fear of the computer, and I'm going to come back to how it relates to AI. But the fear of the computer was, what if I hit the wrong buttons in the wrong sequence and it's broken? And then I don't know who to call. I don't know what to do. My computer, I get the blue screen of death, or my application's no longer working. And you could be only working in a small portion of your capabilities of the computer. But there were days that if you hit the wrong thing, you needed an expert, right? And that's why.
Where'd my cursor go?
Where'd my cursor go? Exactly. Exactly. Right. And I think I said this at the end of last week's episode. It's actually gone the opposite way, because I would put myself in that category of being somewhat tentative to jump into a new application on a computer. Now, Mac changed. You mentioned Mac, Apple versus PC and Microsoft. I did have a massive leap forward in my fearlessness when I got my first MacBook, because I could troubleshoot it on my own. The communities were great. The help pages on apple.com itself were very, very good. And so I could figure things out. And my joke was, I worked for a company for 12 years. They wouldn't buy me a Mac, but I bought my own, and I opened 2 trouble tickets in the 12 years because I could figure it out myself. And what was that? Oh, there's balloons. I don't have any idea where that came from. That was wild. So maybe she's still listening. I don't know. I turned her off, but
she's always listening, Tom.
So here's the the point of the workshop is that you come from that premise of don't think of it as advanced technology, meaning you yourself have to be advanced to use it. It's actually gone back. The pendulum has swung back to now we're at the point where, and using Answermatic AI as an example, we've gotten back to the point where voice is king. You can control, you can interact with AI largely through voice in voice mode. ChatGPT and others are introducing it as fast as possible. Perplexity just put it in a couple weeks ago, where you can talk to it and get that intelligent, quick response. Not to say that her responses were intelligent, but they were kind of funny. And that was what she was programmed to do in this particular scenario.
But let me make a suggestion. So two things. Number one, I think your workshop's great. It's a great idea. However, I think you're going to have lesson one is going to have to be some kind of, let's make sure we're all starting from the same point on the PC.
Yes.
Because I think there's going to be people that, again, I can't find my cursor, Wade.
Yeah.
You got to bring people up to at least a modicum of knowledge, right? Of ability, of call it getting rid of that fear, right? To just navigate around, open apps, close apps, do this, do all that kind of stuff, and then go to the AI.
So I'll work that into. I already have a pre-workshop checklist, and so right. So you have to at least know how to navigate from browser window to browser window, and you have to have an account, whether it's paid for or free. That's almost a moving target, because you can get ChatGPT 4.0 for free now, so you don't really even need a subscription there. But there's a couple others that we go into in the workshop where you really do need the pro version, and your risk is all of $20 a month, right?
So I'll tell you one more thing I want to mention on this. You had just mentioned about how you can talk to ChatGPT-4, and all that's great, right? Hopefully a quicker response than she was giving us today. But this one thing that I'm going to mention has driven people mad. When you call in customer support or even sales with some companies, and you go through a phone tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, and I get frustrated as hell with these, not because I don't know how to work them, because I want to be able to say, just get me to an operator, right? But see, they don't listen until they finish their sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how we as humans communicate. I just interrupted you a second ago, right? You didn't just turn off your ears. You were listening to me and you stopped very nicely. But you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Part of the problem of people using intelligence is that they want it to be human-like, meaning I can interrupt you. Hey, listen, I've got something to say. I want the operator. I heard what you said. Let me ask another way. Do you want number one? Press one. Do you want two? I want an operator. Okay, well, in order to get you to the right place, it's like, fuck you. Get me there.
Right.
I want a human. And this frustrates the hell out of people. Now, I know AI is solving that. But today's example, that's got to improve.
So here's what's really interesting, that custom GPT, and it might have to do with the underlying model that because ChatGPT or OpenAI has multiple different versions of models right now that you can build on top of. But I believe she was built on top of 4.0, actually in voice mode where it's just one-to-one. Now, remember what her job was today was to listen, interpret, and figure out where she should interject. That's more processing power we're asking than if it's just a one-on-one, because actually OpenAI last week announced that they slowed down the response time, because if people were talking like humans, and I'm using your point, if people are communicating like they do as a human to AI in voice mode, one-to-one, and we've had this conversation, you have a brainstorming session with ChatGPT, you click voice mode and you say, hey, I want to talk about this subject. They actually had to slow the response down, because if you simply paused like that right there, it would start talking and you hadn't finished your thought. So they're actually dialing it backwards. Now, like I said, processing power for it to be the third party in the conversation is that's a different subject, a different animal.
Well, it'll get better. I mean,
No
my
question.
son, so after our last podcast, I was telling my son, he's 28 years old, and he's in the cloud computing sales business, right? And we were talking about it because I keep my kids, I try to keep them up to date on all this AI stuff, and he's kind of interested in it. And we were talking, and he said something to me that really resonated. He goes, "This is the worst that's ever going to be."
That's right.
And he goes, "Remember iPhone 3? Right? That was the worst that iPhone was ever going to be. It was up from there."
That's
And
right.
and I was like, "Wow, you're right. This is nowhere to go but up."
Yep.
And so I think so. Let's say maybe 3 months from now, that third party, what we tried, we might try it again, and I'll bet it's way better.
I'll actually do some searching on whether we can increase the response speed with a different model, or maybe it's a different. Maybe it's a different platform entirely. I haven't.
Well,
I didn't.
it's interesting because we talked about Notebook LM last time, and I know, and I know that was generated, right, for those two AIs to talk to each other, right? But that's really real. It sounds very human-like, and sometimes they step over each other, but in a very good way, like a normal human conversation. I tried that same thing because 11 Labs just released their podcast. Same thing.
Functionality, yeah.
Generate a podcast. And the problem is that it waited until the first AI stopped, then there was a pause, then the second AI started. And it wasn't natural. It wasn't natural enough as how we humans speak.
And it's amazing how we can pick up on that, right? So I have to do my plug for Answermatic AI because the custom instructions behind its functionality are absolutely unbelievable. My cousin's to be credited for all of that because you only have so many characters. 2,000 words, I believe, is the instruction set for how it is to operate. And then you pick your voice and how all of that works. But go to answermaticai.com, and right at the very top is the number 772-677-8808, I believe, is the number. But verify that on the website. And when you call, here's how it's programmed. You're going to love this, Rusty. Because we're selling this to small businesses, the small business is the target, and a lot of them are home service businesses, right? Whether it be electricians or plumbers or roofers or outdoor living construction remodeling companies. Every missed call that goes to voicemail, if they don't get back to it fast enough, and they'll all admit this, then what happens is that person who did the Google search for plumbing in my area has already moved on to the next one. And if a live person picked up, they're going to go with that one because they have a plumbing need, right? What we've already discovered is an intelligent conversation, even with an AI, to gather some initial information. What's your need? We'll put you in high priority. In some cases, it can transfer out to the person live. Says, okay, you've got a tub leak. We've got to get you a live person right away. All of these things are what cost that small business money. The demo is set up as such that it kind of it kind of sells itself. So when you call the 772 number on answermaticai.com, the first thing it's going to do is ask your name, ask your business name. If it's not already implied, it'll ask which industry you're in. And then it'll ask how you like your calls to be handled in a friendly manner, in a formal manner, etc. And then it flips gears as a role play and says, okay, let's role play. I'll pretend I'm answering your business's phone from a customer. You're the customer. And now it'll interact and it'll say, thank you for calling ABC Plumbing. And it's an amazing demonstration of itself, right? Because then we can generate, and it generates this transcript and it communicates that to the person who owns that number via email. You can record the call, same as a typical voicemail does. So it's everything voicemail has plus so much more, because any company that's paying someone from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. to answer their phones, that's expensive on a monthly basis because real cost, right? And we're a no-brainer when it comes to ROI on that one. But even if they're still one of these companies, like they miss calls at 7:30 at night, they might not get back. I was talking to a guy that builds custom patios 2 days ago down the road. His truck was parked in front of 4 houses down. And I was just standing there talking to him. And I said, what happens if someone calls at 7:30 at night? He goes, it goes to voicemail. I said, is that a sufficient answer? And he said, well, a lot of times we're not going to get back to him till the next day. And I said, is that okay in your business? And he said, a lot of times they've moved on to the next Google search. He said that even before I could say that.
Yeah, because we're all impatient. We're all super impatient now.
Yeah.
I mean, we have been for years.
It's not getting better.
No, that's not getting better. No, it's kind of terrible. But I mean, why as a customer, why not demand? Look, I have a problem. I'm willing to pay money for a solution. You almost want to sit there and raise your hand and go, who wants to solve my problem? Right?
Right.
And voice. Yeah, you're right. Voicemail is going to be the way of the dinosaur. Because it's just, what good is it? I mean, it's just not really compared to today's methods of communication, right? I'd rather, in some ways, I'd rather send an email. I don't know.
So this is a perfect segue to the next subject, because I've been in the voice business. It's so ironic that 30 years ago when I got out of college and I started into telecommunications, and the very first product they gave me to sell was a PC-based voicemail system designed for small businesses. So I had to learn what small business phone systems were like in order to integrate this PC. And at the time, if you weren't Xerox and you weren't IBM, you didn't have voicemail. So the concept was new.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly people only had maybe an answering machine at home, but they didn't have it on a personal phone because we didn't have cell phones then. And at work, someone just wrote it down on a yellow piece of paper for them, the message that they needed to return. They didn't know they needed it, right?
Business phones were horrendous.
They were
expensive. No, they were expensive, and they were all these closed systems, right? And to try to plug in, like you said, I think later on you could plug in an external voicemail recorder or something, but business phone systems are horrible.
Yeah.
They are. I mean,
and to your point, voicemail, like I just said, voicemails, it proliferated during the mid and late 90s. That's when everyone got voicemail.
Yeah.
And that age of technology, it's due to be retired. It's due to go the way of the dinosaur, especially with what we have.
You're right. It needs a serious upgrade or alternative. And I'm gonna check out, your website. This is pretty cool.
So here's where I want to take it. And then my guy that was my sales engineer, and we're going to have him on the program here soon, Jim Judge is his name. He said something this was so profound to me. And I want to use it to segue into agentic AI, because I really want to get your take, because you wanted to go there so bad last week and we weren't ready. So we're going to jump. What we're going to do is we're going to go stay at AI 101 and the importance of having basic knowledge. And that's my pitch for the workshops. And they're coming we're going to, at the end of April, we'll be doing sessions in the Port St. Lucie, Florida area, Dallas, Fort Worth area, and the Phoenix area. We're doing pre-registration right now. So get in the list. Tell me how many people you might be thinking of bringing, and that's how we're going to pick our dates and times and location to handle the number of people. If you want to get involved, we'll teach you how to do a workshop, and you can make some money doing workshops in Vegas if you want to do that. So that's a limited offer to only a few people, Rusty. So there you go. But I know you could. I know you would be more than capable of giving this 50 slide deck pitch of getting people to use it, get their hands dirty, get them to a couple of applications so that they feel like they can leave there and go use this technology and not be afraid of it. That's enough said. But what my buddy said was, he said, look at the evolution of what we've done. We've think pre-computers, and when I joined the workforce in early 90s, we didn't have computers on desks at the time. I was still handwriting letters, giving them to a secretary pool. They were typing them up using typewriters, and that's what I was signing and mailing to. So we've went from most of our communication as human beings. Now think of it just human beings. We have gone from voice being like the big thing. You called someone, you didn't have email, you didn't have text messages, you didn't have Zoom because you didn't have computers, you didn't have StreamYard as we're using, you had voice. We talked to each other in voice. And then all these technologies came about over the last 30 years or more. Even the computer pre-exists that. But as the consumer, as the masses have adopted this technology, we started getting addicted to screens and typing with our fingers or typing with our thumbs if it's on a mobile device. So you just said it. You said, I'd rather, instead of trying to go through an IVR, interactive voice response unit, that's what that technology. A bad one, right? Instead of getting caught in that press one, press two tree that you're talking about, you'd rather send an email because you've gotten comfortable not talking. Well, guess what agentic AI is going to do? It's going to bring it all back to voice being king. And that's what that's what my buddy Jimmy said. He said, when we were in selling together as a team, selling voice technology, the saying in the industry was voice is dead. Well, now the saying is going to be voice is king again.
So can I give you my perspective on
Let's go. Yes.
Just a real quick history. So while you were in the early 90s not working with anything PC on your desk, I actually was as an entrepreneur. I was out in Silicon Valley. I started the guitar company.
Right.
And we had Mac Classics, which was the box, right, with the black and white screen. We had Macintosh Classics networked with 4-line phone wire.
Oh my goodness.
And it was me and two of my buddies started the company, right? And there was a very primitive, I can't remember if they had email, but they had some kind of messaging between the computers. And it was like, hey, I don't have to yell into the other office or pick up my phone or walk in. I can say, are you ready to go to lunch? So I was doing that in 1990.
Wow.
Classics. Now it was, again, primitive, but but it was cool. It was Steve Jobs, and we were right there in his backyard, and anything new, we always knew about that back then. This is going to be very interesting. So I'm gonna say that I love this agentic AI, and for people that don't understand it, it's really means that AI will become an agent for you, right? AI will become this admin that can do all these things for you. However, if it doesn't do it fast enough or doesn't respond soon enough, it's going to be rejected. That's going to be the challenge here. And it's like that. Think about it in our in our daily lives. If I asked somebody, right? If I had an admin and I said, "Hey, go research this or do this or whatever, find out whatever," and they go, well, "What do you mean by that?" Forget it. I'll do it myself. I'll just walk down the hall.
Yeah.
That's maybe I'm just too impatient. But if I can't get the response I need out of it, I'm going to cast it aside and say I'll do it myself. I can do it faster myself because I can save time.
Well, time is certainly that's the reason you would use it, right? For time and for accuracy. I will throw this at you. Here's what I think will happen when agentic AI that's voice prompted, what you're talking about. And let me give an example because I heard this a few months ago and it stuck with me. And you're wearing AirPods right now. I think what we're going to see is the first thing you're going to see is the screen is going to be a part of the glasses, and the microphone will be a part of the hooks behind your ears. And so you're going to have wearing a pair of glasses. Are they going to be nerdy? They're going to be oversized at first, probably. But in reality, is what you're wearing is a communication device, and you'll still be carrying a phone, but the phone will probably not leave your pocket most of the time because your instruction sets will be going directly from the basically microphone and earpiece through the communication device that'll communicate to the tower or the Wi-Fi or whatever. But here was the example that I heard. So guy walking down the beach and he's got his earpiece in or he's got his glasses on because it might eventually just be an earpiece that does both. And he says, look at a 3-day weekend for my wife and I. We're thinking this destination or this destination. We're willing to drive 4 hours or a quick flight. Look into using some of our Marriott points. And so the agent understands intuitively, knows who his wife's name is, knows how old they are, where they've gone before, knows all these things. And then it can set up this to-do list of it on its own to go check the website, the travel sites, knows what his budget typically is, because that'll all be intuitive knowledge as well. And so here's what my point to what you were saying is, yes, if I'm not sitting in front of my computer and I think there's a faster way, I'll probably use it. But on commutes, when you're on walks, when you're in non-work time and you can get 80 to 90% of it done, and now all you have to do is when you come back to your screen, finish it up.
There's so many. You're right. There's so.
That's a
many
cool
use cases.
application. That's a cool.
Well, this just This is an example. You bring up the bigger point that it's going to touch everything we do, right? It's going to touch everything. Now, again, I'm going to go back out to my 11 Labs site, right? 11labs.com.
Sure.
The agent's already there. I don't know if I told you this, but the agent's already there. So I went on, and it again, it starts with like, okay, what do you want? And you go, I'm looking for a flight from Vegas to Reno this day on Southwest this time, maybe this much money. It went out and found one, and it said, here's 3. Which one do you want? And I said, the first one. I said, let's book the first one, because I was experimenting. And it said, great, give me your credit card. So it's already here. It's
right.
already here. Now, that was pretty quick. It was pretty quick how it responded, but this reminds me, this reminds me of the early days of Amazon and eBay. And I'm dating myself, but back in 2000, when people were like, ooh, don't want to give my credit card.
I totally remember. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. My brother-in-law would not make a transaction online at the time. No way.
This reminds me of those days when you're going to sit there and you're going to say, I can do it. I still think I can do it faster typing and going to southwest.com myself. Right? But again, to my son's comment, this is the worst it'll ever be.
Right.
It's just going to get better. And just like we all got over that fear of putting our credit cards online, we're going to get over the fear of using agentic AI. It's going to be insane. And like you said, I might wear these AirPods most of the day, depending upon where the heck I am, whether it's personal, business, or whatever. All I got to do is say something. Hey, remind me, or you know what? Can you order pickles from DoorDash? I need this for a recipe tonight. But it's like that. Like, that's what I want. I want that.
So I think what we're going to see, and 3 weeks ago or so, when OpenAI introduced Console, that was their first, and it's in controlled beta now, and not everyone can use it. Or maybe if you have the premium $200 a month OpenAI account, you can do it. But Sam sat in on the live stream they did to introduce Console. That should tell you, number one, what the level of this technology, because they make new introductions all the time. I mean, it's almost gotten to daily. It's certainly weekly when something new is coming out of one of these big guys. Well, Sam Altman sitting there at the small table with the guys to demonstrate Console was pretty eye-opening to me. But what Console was doing was getting to that stage where you need the credit card and then giving the control back to the user and saying, enter your information. Now, they claim that's hidden from the AI. And there will be ways it has to go that way, right? It has to go that direction where you can put your personal information that you don't want at risk in through an agentic AI application and still have that comfort level. That's what you're talking about, is the security level and the comfort level of the consumer.
That's easy.
I think so too. I wouldn't be spooked of it. There will be people that'll be spooked of it. There's no question about it, right? And the credit card companies have gotten so good at that. If you flag something as I didn't make that transaction, 9 out of 10 times they run it down in hours and say, yep, wasn't you, take it off of there. And they're going after the people that did it wrong. I mean, that's going to become more and more commonplace if in fact that there isn't a higher level of security associated with it. But
right,
to your point,
or a hacker, you never know.
Oh yeah,
whatever.
how are we ever going to keep ahead of those guys? Because that's all they do.
Wow, that's another discussion we need to have. But go ahead.
So what I think you're saying, we're both saying the same thing here, is the agentic AI in these, I'm going to call them narrowband applications, and using the travel as an example, right? Those are the ones that are going to get perfected very quickly, because then if I've got an agentic AI and I'm a frequent traveler, it's going to know all of my frequent flyer numbers. It's going to know all of my point stuff, which cards I like to use for this and that, because you don't have to go far and wide in an agentic application to work all the way through to, are you ready to book this trip? I've got 3 nights here, flights on this days at these times.
And it's going to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's going to know that I need to stay at Hilton because I want Hilton points. It's going to know to use my Amex because I get Hilton points. It's going to know that I don't want to pay over a certain amount. And it's going to start, the more this goes, it really is going to be great, because I would rather not go to the website of Southwest and go to the website of Hilton and book all this shit, right? I mean, I feel good when I do it because it's done right. But as soon as AI gets to the point where it's done right, I mean, it's going to be as easy as talking into your microphone. It's just incredible.
So can I give you sort of my vision forward, since we were already touching on business phone systems? Let me give you I'm not comparing myself to Steve Jobs in any way, shape, or form, but he was talking about the iPad before the internet existed and before handheld mobile devices existed. He was the only networking that was aware of was plugged in, direct point to point, like you were talking about in your office, right? He started talking about making, I just got a text from a buddy asking why there's no workshops going on in New Hampshire, New Jersey. He wants to get involved. So he's already seen my social media posts. So what the point is, Steve was talking about things as though they could exist, and long before we knew how that technology would ever evolve. Well, what I'm going to say is I already see that Answermatic AI, the voice AI receptionist, it only has a limited time frame of life. And here's why. Because the personal agentic AI you're talking about will just answer the phone for you. If you're unavailable, it'll just answer the phone. I already have my demo, not the one that's on our website, but I have a number personal that's set up where people can call in and it'll say, hi, this is Wade's AI agent. What are you calling in regards to? Are you calling in regards to the workshop? Are you calling in regards to his podcast with Rusty? It'll ask all those questions.
I got it even better. I got it even better for you. Call Wade until the motherfucker answers. Call him all night. I mean, seriously. No, seriously, this is your thing. I mean, think about it. Okay, I'm going to give you another example that you'll love. All right, we're on the 4th hole. 297 yards. What do you think, AI? What club?
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
That has all the GPS coordinates in it. Anyway.
But it's also got my history. It's got my history of my previous rounds. Usually, well, you know what it could do? Here's really evolved. Well, Rusty, it's the 17th hole. Are you feeling tired or are you feeling energetic? I'm a little tired. It's a hot day today. Yes, I can see it's hot. I see the temperature. Then you know what? Instead of the 5, you better hit the 4 iron.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I mean,
yes.
But you're totally right, and you're right. It's going to have again, it's got to be fast and fluid. The FNF, fast and fluid, for us to really use it. So I would think Answermatic has got at least some kind of shelf life, a little bit.
Oh, it will for small businesses entirely. My ultimate vision is with everyone in, let's say, a brick and mortar small business, let's say an accounting firm where everyone's walking around, they've got their own specific jobs they're doing. But if it's resorted to, everyone has their own AI agent, and the AI agent knows where they work and he knows that they're at work. And now call answers, call transfer. Hey, send a message over to this person and tell them I said this, or set a meeting in the corner conference room with these 4 people, put it on, those kind of things are just, again, back to voice being king, because that's how it's going to be, right? You're going to be communicating to your agent. You don't have to open Outlook and go check everyone's calendar availability. That's not going to, it's going away.
But let me blow your mind even more.
Go ahead.
My agent's going to talk to your agent.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's the whole point of agency.
Wade, can I interrupt you for a second? Sure. Go ahead, AI agent. Rusty's AI agent has been bugging me. He wants 5 minutes on the phone.
Yeah.
Can you slot him in? You've got some time between 2 and 2:15. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let him know. Let him know. Have him call me myself.
Yes.
I mean, it's a personal secretary, and you're not going to interface with robots with text. It's going to be speaking.
Well, and then we have to address how fast this is coming, because this isn't something, Jobs talking about the iPad in the 80s, and now all of a sudden it takes 30 years or 25 years for that to get here. By the time you and I finish and we post this podcast and video, we're going to be at the point where it's further along and it's already there. Now, adoption curves I can't speak to. I don't know. In my book that I'm writing, I'm calling it, it's going to be left to the insight rebels. That's what I'm calling the people that are the first ones that grab onto something and they get all this insight and they're using it. And therefore, based on the masses not behaving that way, they're going to be seen as rebels. They're going to happen inside of companies.
It's the old days. They used to call them early adopters, but it's the same principle.
Right.
It's the same principle. And I think it's going to happen faster than computer or home PC adoption, only because the world went forward, right? And companies said, hey, we're not accepting, you can't pay cash anymore. You can't mail us a letter. You got to do things online. And so a lot of people were left, I got to learn this. I got to figure out and muddle through how to do a customer support ticket online, or my bank. How do I pay a bill on my bank? I don't need to mail a bill anymore. So I think that it's going to happen faster than it did for us with computers or whatever. And here's another mind blower. It's going to happen faster because one of these days, and I think they might already be doing it, they're going to turn AI into helping advance its own technology.
Oh yeah, they're using it to write its own code for sure already.
What's the late AI? You got to make another step. We're too slow. Tell me what it is and what we need to do, or what you need. I mean, it's just going crazy.
Well, and I think also the adoption curve will accelerate, not just because of the pace of the technology itself, but now the generations, the younger generations that grew up with screens will be the natural adopters of, I don't have to use my screen anymore. All I have to do is talk, and the screen will do the rest of the communication and I'll still get my result. Well, they're the ones that grew up in the microwave society of all of that, the instant gratification. So they're going to want it as fast as the technology is there. They're going to want to adopt it. And you and I are going to be left as being the old gray hairs in the AI world. That's okay. There's still room for us, but we're the outliers. I can go ahead and tell you.
I know, but we're going to also be saying, I told you so. I told you all you got to do is pick up the phone, call somebody. Now you won't pick up the phone anymore, but like I said, you'll just tap your headset and talk. But we'll be able to say that. Isn't that funny how it's really circular? It's really, this whole thing is circular as far as communication goes.
Nobody loves an "I told you so" more than guys our age. So
absolutely, man. Especially with my kids. I love it.
This is great. All right, hey, next episode. We're going to jump off to something probably a little different, but this has been an awesome three about AI. And we'll just keep going. So I'll send you some ideas. You send me some ideas. Whatever's burning in your brain over the next few days, whatever news cycle you're caught up with, or you've got something going on in the law firm. Well, I don't care what it is. Just bring something up and we'll talk about it.
Will do, man. It sounds good.
All right. And in the meantime, folks, thanks for tuning in. And this is Blackjack Wade signing off.